Hey everybody, welcome to Torah Time at Beit Yeshua. This is Jamieson Bryant, and what we're going to be talking about today is the Torah portion, Miketz. Now, this Torah portion you can find in Genesis 41, verse 1, through Genesis 44, verse 17. Now, one thing that I want to always talk about as much as I can at the beginning of these Torah portions is the actual meaning of the name, the word that is used for that Torah portion. So, Miketz means at or from the end. So something that's really important about this is we're looking at something that's not only happening back in Genesis, we're also looking at something that is giving us a prophetic future, or has a prophetic and future fulfillment. So one of the things that happens in this Torah portion that's really important is Pharaoh being given a dream of a famine that is many years away. Then Joseph ends up interpreting that dream. He's pulled out of the prison, he interprets the dream, and after that he ends up becoming second in command to Pharaoh. So he goes from the very bottom to the very top. This actually allows him to oversee the gathering of all the grain to enable and make Egypt safe, and for it to end up being the only place that is safe from the famine. Now, Joseph's brothers during the famine, they're up in Canaan, and they're commanded by by their father Jacob, to go down to Egypt and bring grain back to him during the famine. Now, Joseph ends up tricking his brothers at that time when they come down to him, and he accuses them and imprisons his brother Simeon in order to encourage them to end up bringing his half-brother Benjamin back down to Egypt. Then Jacob, after some persuasion and I'm sure a lot of hunger, he ends up finally allowing his sons to bring Benjamin back down to Egypt. After that, when they get to Egypt, Joseph greets his brothers, and he ends up giving them a feast. He greets them with a feast. Benjamin especially is treated like royalty, and everything seems like it's going well, at least the way the brothers are seeing it. But after that, Joseph again tricks his brothers. He puts their food money back in their sacks, and he also puts in Benjamin's sack, he puts his special silver cup, his goblet. Now, when the brothers are on their way back up to Canaan, Joseph ends up sending his soldiers, and they capture the brothers. They find the goblet in the feed sack of Benjamin specifically, and we're kind of left hanging at the end of the Torah portion as Joseph states that he's going to keep Benjamin as a prisoner, as a slave, because of his crime of taking Joseph's silver goblet. So going deeper into this Torah portion, one thing I really wanted to focus on, now that you have a general outline of the entire Torah portion, is looking into the dream that Pharaoh, king of Egypt, had. So what was in that dream? We had 7 fat cows that were being eaten by 7 skinny and ugly cows. We also had 7 fat heads of grain that were being eaten by 7 shriveled heads of wheat. So before we go any further, one thing I want you to think about, something that's throughout the Bible that a lot of people kind of interpret and enable them to see this one way in certain passages, and in other passages they kind of let it slip. But when dreams and visions are being given in the Bible, those dreams and visions actually are to be understood a certain way, and that way is not literally. It's basically to see them as pictures that stand for or represent other things that they're related to. So in other words, when we see dreams or visions in the Bible, they illustrate things or points with physical objects, physical animals, whatever they may be, and a lot of times they're also prophecies. They almost are always illustrating a truth by showing a certain picture. So, I'm sure you've heard the saying, a picture is worth 1,000 words. The way that I see this is there's something to be learned from the 7 skinny cows, the 7 fat cows. the 7 shriveled heads of wheat and the 7 good heads of wheat. That's actually explained to us in this Torah portion. Okay, so was it explained that in a certain amount of time Pharaoh would see those things happening? He would literally see 7 heads of wheat being eaten by 7 shriveled heads of wheat, or 7 fat cows being eaten by 7 skinny cows? That's not at all what it was talking about. Actually, it's a picture that was not supposed to be understood literally. So you think about maybe Daniel's visions. He had visions about fierce animals. Were they about fierce animals, or were they about a certain empire, okay, that was being described as a certain animal? It's talking about empires. Jeremiah had a vision about a rod from an almond tree, but and that boiling pot that was in Jeremiah chapter 1. But either way, those were not literal. That's not something that this is all that's going to happen and this is what the dream meant. The dream or the vision actually meant something much deeper than that and wasn't an interpretation of those things. So if you think about John's apocalypse, Revelation, you see all those different things that happen there, like a harlot woman riding on a beast. Is that literal, or was that Babylon? Okay, it's very obvious when those things are actually explained within the passage. But something I want you to really, really pay attention to is a place called Acts chapter 10. In Acts chapter 10, we see a sheet coming down from heaven, and that sheet is part of a vision that's being given to Peter. Now, when Peter sees it, he's told to get up, kill, and eat all these animals, all kinds of creepy crawly scorpions, lizards, all this nasty stuff that no one would ever want to eat. But is that really what the dream or the vision that he had meant? No. In keeping with the rest of the scriptures, that vision had nothing to do with him eating unclean meats. That vision actually had to do with him welcoming Gentiles as fellow heirs into the church. So one thing I want you to think about whenever you're looking at dreams, visions, all these things that are in the Bible that seem more metaphorical, yes, we do need to take things literally, but also keep in mind that there are certain ways that things are presented, and that's something that can help us get away from certain teachings, like in the Christian church, that have been misinterpreted, such as using Acts 10 to justify the eating of unclean meats. So I hope you enjoyed this Torah portion, this little commentary on Miketz. And again, for your study's sake, that's Genesis 41:1 through 44:17. Thank you, and have a blessed day.